So box is a function that I could literally write a love song to. It's one of my favorite ways to use box cutter. I mean, not irony aside, it's basically because box has only, let's see, we'll turn on statistics, 8 sides to it. And if we look at a cylinder is going to have, let's see, looks like 96 edges, 34 faces, 64 vertices just on this general cylinder. So imagine cutting 32 into a shape over and over compared to cutting 8 into a shape over and over. So 64 over and over, cutting into a shape, every single cut tends to get a little bit additive. And in my general testing, I find that circles also skew a little bit terribly. Like, for example, if I were to say cut this with a circle and then try to scale it, it just wouldn't scale right unless I scale it kind of equal to each other. Versus if I were to cut a box in it, it's something that would just work out inherently. So there's a lot to a box that I see, I guess, compared to most other people. But to demonstrate a little bit about how I approach box compared to other people is probably using dice and twist. That's probably one of my favorite examples. Maybe even a little bit of lattice action. So we're just going to start off using some box. Of course, box is so ambiguous and unisex that you can't really tell what it's supposed to be, even when it's stretched beyond its average dimension. So it does get a little bit more specific when you add something like a bevel in, right? Because a bevel can definitely be stretched, an edge angle can definitely be something that can be perceived as skewed. So sometimes I even bring in my insets as something of a box as well, just in order to have a certain degree of control with the shape by the end of it. So here we are just making the shape. I'll mirror it to the other side, and to simplify things, I'm going to go under my HardOps mesh tools, and I'm going to alt click dice in order to smart apply and dice this. So I'm just dicing it, and we'll press T to quickly dice this into another form, and actually like rolling it down into a simpler amount of segments instead of giving it like 8, which will result in some sort of power bracelet. You give it like 2 or 3 and you get these really crazy forms, right? So here I am just starting off with a box, and I'm already turning it into something a little bit more interesting. So if I were thinking about like this in terms of like a robot arm, then the next level would be to probably apply the visual geometry to scale. However, before doing that, I probably should get rid of these interior faces that exist that I'm looking at in object mode that are memories of edit mode. So let's just get rid of those. So here we are looking at our shape. We don't have any vertical dicing. So this is where we go into dice again, and we ask it to basically do us a solid. So now we have dicing going all the way up. We can take this shape and actually just hit it with a lattice, you know, give it some segments, and this shape is putty in our hands. We can turn this into anything we want. And keep in mind that I started off using box with this, and now we're just taking this into a completely different dimension. So sometimes I catch people, you know, bashing me or talking about how simplistic a box is. It's only simplistic until you begin, you know, getting to work with it, and then it can become something very interesting very fast. So to you know, top this video off, I'm going to take this shape, and we're going to disable the lattice, and we will just press QOT to create a quick shape of it, and we'll give it a cylinder quick shape, and we're just trying to find the right axis to give it, maybe something like that with equalize radius only, and we'll just SZ scale this in, and we'll just put some loop cuts on it because it is just a cylinder after all, and we'll scale it out just a tad. And we're just going to select that same lattice as before, and we'll choose lattice deform. So now that shape's deformed, that shape's deformed. And so we have this shape that's being protected by this new shell that we created. So we could add a little bit of auto smooth. You know, that's what HardOps is for, to have your back with auto smooth. Such things are outside the scope of BoxCutter. And we're just going to draw an end-on. And I may be having some final directorial cut changes made to BoxCutter before we release it onto the shop floor. But for the most part, I am liking what I'm experiencing with this latest version of BoxCutter. Just probably going to have some hard blocks put in the pie just to keep some behavior sane, just to keep everybody on the same path. But with that, we're able to create this really interesting shape. You know, I'm thinking in my head like a robot arm that I would, you know, dice out and start cutting more pieces to fit inside of. But just like that, we're able to take something with box and turn it into something that's most certainly, definitely not a box.